The origin of writing in Africa. Africa has a long history of writing. Although Africa has a long history of writing, many people believe that Africans have never had writing except in Egypt. Since the rise of worldwide Western European supremacy, it has been argued that Africans, due to a strong oral tradition, failed to invent writing. As a result, opposition to Afrocentrism has been the unfounded belief that only Egypt had writing in Africa. Although it is alleged that Africans were always illiterate, archaeological, historical, and epigraphic evidence indicates that Africans invented many writing systems and that these writing systems were used from ancient times all the way up to the present. The original inhabitants of the Sahara were the Egyptian or Kemetic people. These Egyptians, these Kemetic people, they were not Berbers or Indo-Europeans, because in fact the Sahara was the ancient homeland of the Dravidians, Egyptians, Sumerians, Niger-Kordofanian, Mandi, and Elamite speakers. This area in ancient times was called the Fertile African Crescent. The inhabitants of this area lived in the highland regions of the Fezzan in modern Libya and Hagar until after 4000 BC. We call these people the Proto-Saharans. The genetic name for these people were Cushites. The Proto-Saharans were called Teseti and Tehennu by the Egyptians. In the archaeological literature, they were called A group and C group, respectively. These people left many inscriptions on pottery, and they later took these pottery signs and made them into a syllabic script. If you compare the symbols from the Indus Valley, Egyptian, Demotic, Mertatech, Gibel Sheikh, you find that all of these symbols are related. The Proto-Saharans or Cushites used similar terms for writing. In general, the term for writing was formed by the labial stops p and b. For example, the Dravidian word to write was par. The Manding word to write was bo, pu, or sebe. In Elamite, the word to write was tipu. In Gale was tafa. There are also other corresponding terms for mark or draw that begin with the vowel stops. For example, the Dravidians called to write or draw kiri or kuru. The Egyptians called it hati, and the Manding called it kiri or kiti. The Proto-Saharan writing was first used to write characters on pottery, to give the ceramics a talismanic quality. Similar signs appear on Chinese, Harappan, South Indian, megalithic, Libyan, and Cretan pottery. These signs were invented by the Proto-Saharans for purposes of communication. If you look at this chart, you can clearly see that the signs from the megalithic pottery, the Indus script, Egyptian pottery, Manding script, and even the Anatolian script are all similar. They are similar because the Cushites took these scripts with them to these various areas. This is one of the earliest inscriptions from Egypt. These seals were discovered at Abydos by Gunther Dreyer. They date back to 3400 BC. These inscriptions were found at Abydos. Abydos is a very interesting site because it's at Abydos that we find many ancient artifacts and also find a number of inscriptions. These inscriptions are important because these inscriptions tell us a story about the Proto-Saharans. It tells us a story about ancient Africans, and it shows us much about their writing. Here are some inscriptions that were found at the pre-dynastic ruler Scorpion I's tomb. Some of these seals inscriptions date back to 3400 BC. Many of the pottery scripts that we have are called today Thinite. These inscriptions that are called Thinite come from a city named This near Abydos. The Thinite Empire dates back to 3150 to 2700 BC. The Thinite pottery marks are very interesting because you will find that the Thinite pottery marks appear in just about every one of the ancient writing systems. That is, the Proto-Elamite, Proto-Sumerian, Libico-Berber, Indus Valley. You'll find Thinite signs. The Thinite pot marks have been found in Upper and Lower Egypt. Petru was the first to record the Egyptian pot marks. These pot marks are found on pottery dated to dynasty 0 to 1. The Thinite pot marks were published by Van de Breen They agree almost totally with the Ued Mertutek, the Gibel Sheikh Suleiman, Harappan, Proto-Elamite, Saabian, and Proto-Sumerian signs. It is clear that a common system of record keeping was used by people in the 4th and 3rd millennium BC, from Saharan Africa to Iran, China, and the Indus Valley. Although the Elamites and Sumerians abandoned the Proto-Elamite writing and the Uruk script, respectively, in favor of cuneiform writing, the Dravidians, Minoans, and Manding continued to use the Proto-Saharan script throughout their civilizations. Here you can see a chart where we compare the various syllabic signs of the Egyptians, Uruk, which was the name for the Proto-Sumerian script, Proto-Elamite, Indus Valley, Ued Mertutek, Linear A, and Manding. Look carefully and you will note that they are all the same. They are very similar. The ancient African inscriptions make it clear that outside Egypt, Africans preferred to use syllabic writing, as indicated by the Thinite inscriptions, and Ued Mertutek and Gibel Sheikh Suleiman inscriptions. This fact is also made clear by the Seth inscription. The Seth inscription is an inscription that was found in the Western Sahara. This inscription has pictures of the Egyptian gods Seth and Anubis. The symbols on the engravings are written in the so-called Libico-Berber writing, which is really made up of Mandi signs. Using the Vai signs, we are able to read the inscriptions in the Malinki Bambara language. The reason we use the Vai to read these symbols is because the Vai record the ancient syllabic meanings for many of the signs that we find on the ancient writings. Under the canine figure or Anubis, we have Betuakana, or to exist obedient to the order and joy with the mother. Reading the inscriptions under the Seth figure, we have the following: Ilui Gyo, Fa Yo Gyo, or Thou hold upright this divinity of the cult, our Father, the vital spirit of society consecrated to Seth's cult. The Seth figure is important in relation to the Western Sahara and the Seth cult. Michael Rice in Egypt's Making, The Origin of Ancient Egypt, 5000 to 2000 BC, makes it clear that Seth was the god of the southern people and that Anubis, the Canaan god, was the protector of the people of the south. This is the end of part 1.